Hello everyone, welcome to today's lecture. So today we are going to discuss about chapter number 5, that is audit evidence. I hope everyone has read this chapter well in advance from the study material. Now in the study material, if you see, you have essay 500, 501, 505, 510, 530 and 550 which is provided in this chapter, and we are going to discuss in detail on these particular essays. Okay, so we are going to discuss on each of the essay in detail so that you can understand the concept in much more clarity, and then we will be solving some questions on this particular part. Basically, chapter number 5, if I talks about audit evidence, the evidence that you gather while performing the audit. Remember, at multiple instances or at the multiple stages, we have discussed about obtaining sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. That sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. How to gather that? What is an audit evidence? What procedures we are required to perform? So basically, here we will understand about the procedures to obtain the audit evidence. For example, 500, it's pure audit evidence. Pure audit evidence essay where we'll understand about what some important aspect of the audit evidence. 501, specific considerations. Again, 505, you have external confirmations. 510, you have initial audit engagements. 530, you have audit sampling. 550, very important one, which is related parties. So in all these scenarios, how to perform specific audit procedures and how to gather audit evidence from that those specific procedures. Okay, till chapter number 4, anyone has any doubt till now? Any doubt? No? No doubts? No issues. So let's proceed with first one, which is the SA 500, which is basically the audit evidence. Okay, an essay which talks about purely audit evidence in detail. It explains that what is sufficient and appropriate audit evidence, how to gather that, and what are the specific requirements with respect to this. Okay, so when I talk about essay 500, basically, also along with me, I would request everyone to take the notes. These notes will help you a day before the exam. Okay, so the first thing that we are going to discuss is essay 500. That is nothing but your audit evidence. Okay. Now, if you see, essay 500 basically provides that auditor has to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. So the requirement that is placed by essay 500, and which is the requirement that we have discussed multiple times, okay, is to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. That is the objective also. The objective of the auditor is to design the procedures. How to design? We have seen in 330. We have seen till 330 that how to design audit procedures. Remember the RCM, the risk control metrics that we saw, audit plan that we saw, all those things, how to design and perform the audit procedures. Now, the objective to design and perform the audit procedures is to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. So whatever activity we are doing, whatever planning we are doing, whatever procedures we are deciding, everything with a goal that we have to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. Whatever we are doing from start, it's the objective is that we have to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. So again, we will reiterate that over here, that objective of auditor is to design and perform audit procedures, okay, in such a way as to enable the auditor to, very important part, obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. Okay. Now, when I say design, we have already seen in SA 315 about the design. When I say perform, we have seen SA 330 how to, respond to the risk, assess risk of material statement. So here the role is to design and perform to obtain the evidence. Now the question comes is like, what is an audit evidence? The basic thing that we need to understand, what is an audit evidence? Can anyone tell me what do you think is an audit evidence?
Audit evidence is the kind of information that we collect to give a basis for our opinion and conclusions. It can be financial statement, financial information, or other than financial information.
Okay, very good. Anyone else? What is audit evidence? Can I say that management gave me trial balance? Trial balance is an audit evidence. Yes or no? Can I say that the trial balance which management gave to me is an audit evidence?
Yes.
Okay.
Sir, are you talking about the information given by the entity, right?
Yes.
And it taken expert advice, right?
No, I'm talking about just simple example. Management gave me a trial balance. Can I call that trial balance as an audit evidence?
If it is reliable and complete, then it is audit evidence.
Absolutely correct. Yes. So that's the point. Information in itself is not an audit evidence. Unless and until information which is used by auditor in arriving at the conclusions, okay, then I can say that yes, it's an audit evidence. So to be an accounting, to call an accounting record as an audit evidence, I have to use that to arrive a conclusion. So by only taking a trial balance, I cannot call that trial balance as an audit evidence, first of all. So I need to arrive at some conclusion by using that information. So audit evidence is nothing but the information which is used by auditor in arriving at the conclusions. Now conclusions can be different based on my planning and my the procedures I have designed as per SA 330. So the conclusion can be to check whether the risk is present at the assertion levels. Okay, my conclusion testing by testing could be different. Okay, but overall conclusion will remain same whether the financial statement are free from material misstatement or not. But at the assertion level, it will differ. Okay, in some areas, in some testing, I may check some other assertion. In some areas, I may check some other assertions. So whatever information you have gathered to draw the conclusion and which supports Your overall audit opinion at the last is your audit evidence. Okay. Now it can contain information in the accounting records as well as information obtained from other sources. So there are two type of, basically we call it sources. One is the accounting records, and second one your other sources. Can someone give me an example of other source?
Expert advice on any matter.
Okay.
Third party confirmations.
Yes, very good. Third party confirmations. So something that we are gathering from outside other source, which is not from the accounting records of the financial statements. Best example, very good example is an external confirmation. We will see that in coming session on the external confirmation. But yes, external confirmation being another source is a very good example of the audit evidence. Okay. Now we discussed about sufficiency and appropriateness of the audit evidence. When I say appropriateness, it talks about the relevance of the audit evidence and its reliability. Okay. So we will discuss these two terms in detail so that we can understand what are the things we need to perform before we can say a particular evidence is sufficient and appropriate. Okay. Now, when I say sufficient and appropriate audit evidence, sufficient and appropriate audit evidence, I by itself, cannot call anything as a sufficient and appropriate till the time they satisfy certain criteria. Now, for appropriateness, it has to be relevant and reliable with respect to the conclusion. Relevant and reliable. When I say sufficiency, it has to be, of such nature basically that it can give me the comfort on a particular, purpose or the conclusion on which I need to draw upon. So, for example, let's say I'm testing, risk with respect to the incorrect invoice processing. By testing one sample, I will get audit evidence. That is perfectly fine. Testing one sample is also an audit evidence. Whether that audit evidence is sufficient for my purpose, is sufficient enough, which can allow me to draw the conclusions on that particular testing? Answer is no. So the quantity of the audit evidence which is required for my assessment or which is required to satisfy the requirement of the testing or objective of the testing is something called as a sufficiency. Basically, we in nutshell call it as a quantity of the audit evidence. And when I talk about relevant and reliable, it is nothing but the quality of the audit evidence. Okay. Now, there are certain procedures that we need to design and perform when we are checking the relevance and the reliability of the information to be used as an audit evidence. We cannot directly say that, okay, this is relevant or this is reliable. No. We have to perform some procedures before we can say, yes, this is relevant and this is reliable. Clear till now?
Yes, sir.
Now, basically, if you see, there are multiple type of procedures that we perform during the audit, which may include inspection, observation, okay, then external confirmation, then recalculation, reperformance, analytical procedures, including inquiry. Different kind of procedures are there, and you get a different kind of evidence from each of the procedure. Now at the end, when you perform all these procedures, or let's say if you perform the combination of the procedure, you get some audit evidence, and for that you need to understand whether that evidence is relevant or reliable or not. Okay, when I talk about the relevance, can anyone tell me when I can say that audit evidence is relevant for this particular purpose? What is the relevance that I'm talking about? Or someone if can explain in
Sir,
simple.
can you repeat, sir? Your voice got stuck.
Okay, so I'm saying that I had to say that my audit evidence was relevant and reliable. I'm talking about the relevance of the audit evidence and reliability of the audit evidence. If someone can explain what is relevance that I'm talking here. Anyone?
Sir, when we obtain audit evidence which is in written form or anything, we can say it as a reliable than oral form of audit evidence.
Okay. Good. Yes.
So it can be decided according to the nature of audit procedure that we are going to perform. Like if we are to test any overstatement or anything in any particular account balances, then the relevant information for this procedure will be the relevant accounts ledger. Like if it's payable valuation we are doing, then the accounts payable ledger will be the relevant information for our purpose.
Okay. Good. Very good. Yes. I'll give you one example, and then you guys can tell me whether in this particular scenario it is relevant or not. So, Mr. A, to test the unrecorded liabilities and contingent liabilities, decided to obtain the list of booked account payable invoices and verified the said invoices with the hard copy of the invoice. So, Mr. A was the auditor to test the unrecorded liabilities and contingent liabilities. He decided to obtain the list of booked account payable invoices. Okay, booked account payable invoices and verified the said invoices with the hard copy of those invoices. Now, here at the end of this particular testing, he identified at the end he did not identify any exception. Now tell me, the audit evidence received from this particular testing is appropriate?
No, sir, because our objective was to identify unrecorded liabilities and contingent liabilities. So the relevant audit evidence should have been minutes of the meetings or any litigation informations like litigation pending with any court or something, which is not already there in the books. We have to find that thing that will be relevant.
absolutely correct. Yes, very good. So when I talk about unrecorded liabilities, this is something which is not there in the books. Now, obtaining a list of booked account payable invoices and verifying with the hard copy, it's kind of testing where I'm checking the accuracy of the booked account payables. Accuracy of the account payables, like valuation of the accounts payable, or accuracy of the purchases. So if I want to verify accuracy assertion of purchase, if I want to verify valuation assertion of accounts payable, perfectly fine. This testing will give me the required audit evidence. But if I want to check the unrecorded liabilities, I'm sorry, this is not the correct testing. It may give you an audit evidence which is not relevant for this particular purpose. It may be relevant for some other purpose, but not relevant for this particular purpose. So the audit evidence here is not relevant for the purpose of testing of unrecorded liabilities. Any doubt with this? Any doubt? What is relevance and what is relevance I'm talking about over here? If I summarize, relevance is nothing but logical connection with the purpose of audit. So whatever audit evidence I have received, whether that audit evidence has any logical connection with the purpose for which I was doing a testing. If yes, then you can say yes, it has a relevance. My relevance can be of different nature. For example, it can be highly relevant to the testing. It can be somewhat medium relevant to the testing. That depends upon how much comfort, how much audit evidence you are getting from that particular testing. Clear? Any doubt? No? No doubts? Okay. Now the second term that I want to talk about is about the reliability. Reliability of the audit evidence. Again, these are the part of appropriate audit evidence. So we were talking about to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. From appropriate, we came to the relevant and the reliable part. Now we are talking about reliability of the audit evidence. So we have discussed this multiple times, and we just now also discussed on this particular part that audit evidence obtained from external sources or independent sources is more reliable than compared to the internal sources. Yes. So the source of audit evidence, the way it has been obtained, decides the reliability, particularly of that particular audit evidence. So if the audit evidence itself, okay, is influenced by a source, its nature, and the circumstances in which it is obtained, in such a case, it has very less reliability because it has been influenced by the source. For example, management representation. Management representation is kind of an audit evidence, but it is not that much reliable. Reason because it can be influenced by the source very much. So the question when it comes on the reliability, it is basically that if the source is objective, means it is not biased to anything, it is independent. In that case, the information, the audit evidence obtained from such a source which is independent, which is objective, will always be a reliable. So the reliability of the audit evidence increases when it is obtained from the independent source outside the entity, compared to when you obtain that particular information from the entity. If the information is obtained from independent and objective source, then it has higher reliability. Clear? Any doubt? Any doubt till now? So that was the first part that I wanted to discuss on the audit evidence. So then there are important aspects of the audit evidence that we need to discuss is that when this audit evidence is prepared by the management expert now, because till now we are talking about pure audit evidence, but what if the information is used as an audit evidence has been prepared by the management expert or by the management itself? Then how to rely on that particular information and how to use that information? Information to be used as audit evidence. Okay. Now, when the information is used to be used for audit evidence, we are usually, we will be checking that relevance and the reliability of that particular information. That is perfectly fine. Apart from that, when the information which is there, which has been, which we are going to use as an audit evidence, which is prepared by the management expert, then what to do? Now, the additional part here is management's expert. This information prepared by management's expert. So you tell me, let's say for example, management prepared a detailed warranty calculations, okay, on the basis of which warranty provision has been booked. That warranty calculation has been performed by a management expert. Management expert provided you all the relevant data. What you will do?
Like we already studied this part, we can say that the professional expertise, scale, competence of expert, we will check into it. Their objectivity, independence requirement, we will also check that, and the standards that are applicable on them, whether they are following that while performing their procedures and policies, we will also check that, and their internal control system over on their overall performance, if it is sufficient, whether do they have any internal control system in their organization also. Like we saw it that if they are outsourcing their information requirement from the third party service organization entity, in that case we were also using type 1 type 2 reports also there.
Okay, good, very good. Yes. Anyone else would like to add something more to this? Let's say a warranty provision calculation has been prepared by a management expert. That calculation has been given to you. What you will verify and how you will verify or rely on that calculation.
Sir, one more thing. We check the assumption taken by the experts for calculating uh, such warranty works, and uh, rather apart from that, we also check the appropriateness and completeness of their works.
Okay. Good, very good. Okay, yes. So, anyone would like to add anything further to this? Anyone?
If calculation or valuation is of such nature where particular law or regulation says something about or gives any guidance for that purpose, we will check whether that expert has followed that guidance or not.
Yes, absolutely correct. Very good. So yes, you have correctly said that when an information which is prepared by the management expert, and we have already discussed this particular part in detail, auditor's expert versus management expert, we have seen some questions also. So what we are required to do, number one, we will evaluate CCO, okay, of that particular expert. So you need to evaluate CCO, that is capabilities, competency, and objectivity. Capabilities to understand whether he can prepare that working, he can do that working. Competency is kind of, whether he is competent enough to understand the complexity. Okay, so let's say he is competent, but he right now he doesn't have the capability to perform the work. Might be prepared a sub quality, substandard quality of report. So competency and capability both together will help you to understand whether the calculations which have been prepared are appropriate, are correct or not. But why objectivity? Can anyone tell me why we are checking objectivity?
Nature of the extent of relationship between management and expert might affect the objectivity of the evidence. Like it can be a biasness can be there on the conclusions of the that have been received achieved by the expert. So it will affect the audit evidence also.
Yes, absolutely. So objectivity will help me to understand management biasness. Based on the objectivity, I will be able to understand the level of management biasness in the outcome which is there. And which was the essay where we understood how to test for management biasness? We have discussed this one.
Essay 315.
Not properly, but there was one more essay. Anyone? Which essay it was there where we discuss about management biasness?
अकाउंटिंग एस्टिमेट्स का ऑडिट करते वक्त हमने देखा था उनका बायसनेस चेक करना.
Which was the essay name and number?
So we forgot the theme.
No.
Essay 540, sir.
Yes, absolutely correct. So, essay 540, where we understood about the accounting estimates, and one such part was management biasness. Over there, we understood that how to test for management biasness. Okay, how to ensure that the estimates which are prepared by even the management expert, how much management biasness is present in that. And accordingly, we can develop our point estimates, point range, or and we can evaluate the outcome of the estimate also. Okay, So this will help us to understand the accuracy of the working that has been prepared by management expert. Clear? So that's why objectivity is very much important. That will give you a good clarity about the management biasness. And any which ways, there is one more aspect of this particular part. Okay. Now, we already know management override of control.
Fraud factor.
Yes. So management override of control can also impact the working which is prepared by the management expert. They can pressurize, they can, force expert to prepare the working in such a way that they want. So management biasness plus management override of controls will help us to understand, or will give us a clarity on the the accuracy and how much reliance we can place on this particular part. That's why understanding the objectivity is very important. I'll give you one simple example. Let's say you, not an auditor, not as an auditor, but you are doing a certification work as a chartered accountant. You are doing a certification assignment for a particular company. Now management comes to you and says, do not certify in this way, but certify on this number. Let's say net worth certificate. Will you certify on the number which management says, or will you certify on the number that you think is the correct one?
The second one.
Obviously, yes. So as an auditor, or not an auditor, as in chartered accountant, where we are subject to the objectivity requirement, where we are subject to the code of ethics requirement. If there is a net worth certificate which has been already there, prepared by us, an auditor can rely on the objectivity and he can think, okay, now this is prepared by a chartered accountant who is an independent. I am pretty much sure that he will be objective. So the management biasness or the management override of control risk might not be present in this. So he will be, relieved from these two particular risks when he will see the net worth certificate prepared by an independent chartered accountant. That's why it's very important to understand about the objectivity of the management expert. In that particular scenario also, we, there are certain examples where a chartered accountant can be a management expert because he is working on an engagement, but at the same time his objectivity will give some comfort to the auditor. Clear? Second thing that we need to understand about is the work that has been performed. Understanding of the work. Understanding of the work of that particular expert. That how that expert has performed the work basically. Because that will again, is a very important part. Otherwise, you will not able to understand what have been performed. Now, to understand the work of an expert, what you will do? Can someone tell me some aspects that are relevant for the understanding of the expert's work that you will look into?
So the nature of engagement, for what purpose that expert has been hired by the management, we will look into, and what kind of standards are applicable for performing those kinds of assignments. We will also check into that, whether they have been complied with or not.
Yep. Absolutely correct. Yes. What aspects you will look into when you need to understand the work of an expert. Let's say warranty provision. I'll give you a warranty provision example. You will go and you will try to understand the warranty provision, but what things you will look into that warranty provision?
Sir, assumptions and law and regulations and uh, calculation which he performed during their conclusion, and
Yes,
and
yes,
competency also involved with their experts advice.
absolutely correct. Yes, yes. So we will be looking into a lot of aspects. Okay, that is the area of the expertise, professional standards, assumptions, methods, nature of external or internal information that we can gather about the expert. Okay, and at some moment it is very important to understand our prior experience with that management expert. So let's say if this is not the first time, okay, that we are working with this management expert, we have worked in the past also. Last year also he was there, last to last year also he was there. So what was our experience at that particular point in time, whether his calculations were correct or not, whether there was any issue in his calculations? So all that stuff will be there. Are you getting the point? So management experts basically understanding is can be obtained by these all procedures or by all these areas. Any doubt till now? Any doubt? Okay, if no doubt, let's proceed further. So we will go and we will evaluate the nature and scope and objective of the expert's work, the roles and responsibilities that were assigned to that expert, nature, timing, and extent, and the way that expert will provide his conclusions, all the stuff, including the written agreement between the management and the management expert. All these things we will evaluate to understand the work of the management expert. And then finally, what we will do is we will evaluate the appropriateness of the expert's work. Appropriateness of the expert's works for that particular relevant audit evidence or relevant assertion. Now, appropriateness is something that we have already discussed in detail. It is same as this one, relevant and reliable. How much relevant and reliable is there on the expert's finding, whatever conclusions he has given, whether there is a consistency with the other audit evidence, and how much we are comfortable with the audit evidence that has been provided by that management expert. Okay, so the relevance and the reliability is something that we will evaluate. Any doubt? Now, sometimes management or management's expert, they use something known as an IPE. That is an information which is produced by the entity. Okay, so to perform the work, sometimes they refer to IPE. Now, when we talk about IPE, information produced by entity. Can anyone tell me how this is different than the accounting records or the other information that is there? How IPE is different than the accounting records?
Sir, source given, reliable source, like say for example, when we just auditing of some part like that, debtors, uh, total of debtors, then we chat with external confirmation, and the amount recorded in the books and the other part external confirmation is might differ.
Okay.
So entity produced by the entity produced by information produced by the entity is only such amount that record in the books, and external confirmation is different. So reliability and accuracy problem is here.
Okay. Okay. I'm expecting something more on this particular part. So if I say information produced by the entity, what do you mean by information produced by the entity? How it is different from other information?
Sir, I'm not exactly sure whether it will be there. Its exact sense will be the answer. It can be any type of reports or schedules or anything that have been prepared by management for performing their work of management responsibility relating to financial reportings.
Yes, yes. Very good. Yeah. Something similar on the similar lines. Yes. Okay. I'll tell you. When I talk about information produced by the entity, okay, information produced by the entity can be a report which is either system generated, manually prepared, combination of both. It can be downloaded, it can be in any format, it can be reports which not be standard, which is out of the box. In a lot of ERPs there are standard templates, standard reports. It can be something beyond that, customized report, query based reports, SQL reports. Okay, it can be manually prepared report, but it is something where information was prepared by, gathered by, some activity has been performed on that information. That information was obtained by the management, and it has been prepared or combined in such a way that it is like converting data from the information. So the data was obtained by the management from different sources, maybe internal ERP or something like that. And on the basis of that, management came out and processed and got a report or an information. Okay. So when management processes the data and at the end they get the information, they summarize the information, they prepared that information in form of a report or something like that, which is then given to the auditor. That becomes information produced by the entity. Clear with this? What is information produced by the entity? It refers to kind of data which is internally generated by the company only. Okay, it is the reports, it is the evidence which is generated by the company itself. So there was a raw data within the ERP. Company took out that particular data in a particular format, in a particular reports format, in a particular kind of a format that you need, and that becomes information produced by the entity. For example, sales report, information produced by the entity. Inventory reports, information produced by the entity. Accounts receivable aging information produced by the entity, system generated logs, actual versus budgeted report information produced by the entity. This particular raw data was there within the ERP. After giving the parameters, management took out the reports which has been given to you. So that is information produced by the entity. Okay. Now, when I talk about information which is produced by the entity, for that, can I rely on that information, or do I need to perform some procedures?
I have to perform some procedures like appropriateness of data, as we have already discussed. We will also check their source data from where they have taken that parameters they are applying to them.
Yes, absolutely correct. So it is not only, basically there are 3 to 4 elements, if I talk about, that we need to check for the IPE. IPE basically, we call this as a IPE, information produced by the entity. There are 3 important parameters of IPE. The first parameter is the source data, from where it is coming. Second parameter is a report logic. What logic was given to that particular source so that it provided you the data. Okay, what is the logic that was running behind that particular source that gave you the data? Now, to run the logic, you need to provide parameters. So the report parameters. Okay, for example, a hypothetical example, let's say you want to extract a data aging, accounts receivable aging report. Now, ERPs are capable of extracting accounts receivable aging report. That is perfectly fine. They can extract at any date. What if tomorrow I extract account payable aging report as on 31st December of, let's say, XX year, and I just change the date on top of the report and make it 31st March? So the logic will run accordingly. I'm comfortable with the logic that it will calculate the aging till 31st December, but the parameter which was given was incorrect. Sometimes in a lot of multinational companies, when you are providing the logic, you need to enter all the accounts receivables code, you need to enter all the divisions, you need to enter all the profit centers, and a lot of parameters are there based on the ERP. Okay, so basically I say these are the 3 basic parameters that I check for the IPE report: source data, report logic, and the report parameter. If I show you an example, okay, how it works with account receivable only. So this flow chart will help you to understand how the logic works behind the scene. Basically, you enter the date or the range for which you need accounts receivable. You have the AR program within the ERP, the report logic basically. The AR subledger in the ERP is the source data, and you get the IPE. So the source data, the report logic, and the parameters, report parameters, are the 3 important elements which I need to verify before I can say this IPE is correct, or I can use that IPE. Clear? If any of the thing is incorrect, let's say I gave incorrect parameters, the logic is incorrect, the source data is incomplete, I will not get the complete IPE. And there are lot many issues or lot many aspects that can be checked for this particular. For example, here over here, How will you verify the report logic? Can anyone tell me how will you verify the report logic?
By performing some tests.
Okay, like for example, let's take this AR case. How will you verify the report logic?
By verifying the input processing and actual output that has been derived versus what should have been derived.
So you will perform the manual recalculation of AR aging?
To some extent.
For how many samples? Like let's say for example, there are numerous invoices that might be there. Won't it be a problem for you to perform the recalculation for majority of the samples?
Yes, according to risk level and materiality level, I will decide upon the testing sample size.
Or if I can, let's say for example,
Controls around that process.
okay, so let's say for example, if I test one sample for logic, okay, and if I perform testing of unauthorized changes to system. So if I perform these two testings, that no one has performed any unauthorized changes to the system logic, that will give me a comfort that system logic is correct. And one sample to test the logic. For example, start to end, I'll take one sample of AR. I will take the invoice. Okay, this was the date when it was booked. This is the due date. This is the payment terms that we are offering to the data. Let's say, for example, 60 days as per the customer master that has been picked by the data or the source data. Now, from the due date, 60 days of payment term, this comes to this particular due date. Okay, system due date versus our due date. Then we will say, okay, as on 31st March, what is the aging from the due date, and accordingly whether the aging given by this particular report is correct or not. So one sample start to end and testing of unauthorized changes can save me a lot of time. I am not required to test multiple samples because I am performing some testing on the report logic. In such a way, okay, so that I am getting the completeness and accuracy of the information. So here what I'm doing is I am getting audit evidence about the accuracy of the information. Now when I talk about report logic, I'm talking about the accuracy as of now. Okay, so this gives me comfort on the accuracy.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, uh, don't you think a test of unauthorized change of system is checked entry level, entry date range, parameter level?
Parameter level.
I mean, when I book this transaction, I have to check all transaction booked in the system is properly authorized by the management or proper person who is responsible for doing this task.
That is again your question on the completeness. I'm talking about the accuracy as of now. I'll come to the completeness. See, if someone has booked incorrect or unauthorized transaction, that will impact the completeness. So I am talking about the aspect that whatever transaction is appearing in the system, whether we are getting that in a correct way or not. That's the accuracy part. Okay. Now, whether those are complete, whether something is missing, something is additional, which is not correct, that is when I will verify the source data. So
Okay.
testing of the source data will give me comfort on the completeness of that information.
Okay,
Now,
sir.
as you said, how will you test the source data then? Let's say I have a AR subledging. All the entries are there in the AR subledging. How can I get comfort on that?
So then I test on authorized changes or authorization of that transactions. Okay, sir.
Yes. So when I talk about source data, I have to perform procedures in order to get a comfort that the source data from where the data has been taken by the logic is complete. There are no unauthorized changes to that data. There are no unauthorized entries to that particular data. All that entries which are there are approved and authorized and correct. And for that, I need to perform some procedures to validate that. Usually, what we do is we verify this particular part in two categories. One, TOC. Remember something? TOC that we discussed in last session?
Test of control.
Yes.
Test of control.
We go and check, is there any control around the particular source data? For example, invoices are only processed once they are approved or authorized. How that control is working. Apart from that, process specific control. These are process specific control. Apart from that, is there any other control that you may test?
Operating effectiveness.
That is operating effectiveness of the process specific control. So the controls which are there on the process, I will check the design and operating effectiveness of this particular part, DE and OE of this particular process specific control. Other than process specific control, is there any other control that you will check? Something that you might get recall that we check.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
IT related general control.
IT related controls, sir.
For example, IT general control, simple. Let's say Mr. X was the person who was supposed to approve all the invoices. Now his password is with everyone. Anyone can log in as a Mr. X and approve all the invoices. So you will get that, okay, Mr. X has approved the invoices. Process specific control is working, but his password was accessed from 10 different computers. IT general control is failing. So I don't have a comfort on process specific. And that happens. So IT general controls, when they fail, we do not even rely on the process specific controls because they directly impact the effectiveness of the process specific controls parameter. Like process was that someone has to approve the invoice before it get processed. But the moment IT general control failed, that the password is available with everyone. So there are 10 computers we can see which has logged from where Mr. X has logged in. Not only one, but 10 different computers. That creates a doubt, okay, there is a compromise with the password has been compromised. I cannot rely in the system that whether this invoice is actually reviewed and approved by the correct Mr. X. So ITGC plus process specific give me comfort on the TOC part of this particular area. Okay. The next is I may perform TOD. May, depending upon the level of comfort I'm getting from the TOC and ITGC, I may choose to perform some TOD over here. Or there are dual purpose testing also. We'll see in some time, but there are dual purpose testing. I may perform dual purpose testing on the source data. What TOD can you think about in case of AR subledger? Anyone? The TOD you can think that you can perform on AR subledger? No? Come on, it is pretty easy.
Can you repeat your question?
So the TOD that you can perform on the AR subledger, any procedure. What is TOD?
The
So substantial
classification, account
procedure.
balance, disclosures, all.
Sorry.
Classification and
Your voice was breaking. Can you repeat again?
classification and the disclosure.
I'm talking about the procedure. These are the assertions. Okay, fine. Classification and disclosure. But what procedures, audit procedures you will perform to ensure the completeness of account receivable subledger?
Sir, confirmation taken by the debtors also.
Yes, very good. So the confirmations will help me to get the comfort on the AR sub-balances. So confirmations plus my test of controls will give me a good comfort on the completeness of the source data, by which I will be able to rely on the source data. Parameters, the last element, is something that I have to check by two different ways. We usually check it by two different ways. One is an observation, and second is a reperformance. Observation is kind when the person who is on the system, who is producing the information for the entity, we observe what parameters he is entering, whether that parameters are correct or not. Second option is he gives me a report, I re-enter the parameters and I check the output, whether his output, my output is same or not. So in observation, reperformance are the two things that you can do to ensure the parameters. And again, parameters, correct parameters will give you comfort on the accuracy only, and somewhat on the completeness, because if you have entered incorrect parameters, you may get an incorrect data. So it is something related to the accuracy plus completeness both. Clear? Any doubt with respect to the information produced by the entity? So when I talk about source data, I talk about completeness. When I talk about the report logic, I'm talking about the accuracy. Okay, and when I talk about the report parameter, it is something a combination of both, which may impact my accuracy and completeness. So I need to obtain evidence on the accuracy and completeness of the information produced by the entity. Obtain audit evidence for completeness and for accuracy for information produced by the entity. And second, you need to understand that information basically is precise and detailed for my purpose. Basically, it is appropriate for my purpose. IPE should be appropriate for auditor's purpose. That is, the information which is there is relevant and reliable, basically. Clear? Any doubt with respect to this one? Any doubt? No? Okay, great. So that was information produced by the entity. We discussed information prepared by the management expert, or sometimes management expert uses this information. For that also, we need to perform these procedures. If management expert has used the information which is produced by the entity, we need to evaluate the management expert's competency, capability, and objectivity. We need to evaluate his appropriateness of the work. Along with that, we need to perform procedures to understand the information produced by the entity and the use by management expert is perfect, is reliable, is complete, is accurate or not. Okay, so these may together go hand in hand when the information produced by the entity is used by the management expert, and that happens a lot of times. So it is a pretty common thing. Now, the next part that I want to discuss is the inconsistencies. Okay, inconsistencies. Or you have a doubt, you have doubt over the reliability of the audit evidence. You do not trust audit evidence because of XYZ reason. Okay, then what? Let's say you have a doubt over the reliability of the audit evidence. What you will do?
We will perform additional audit procedures in order to obtain additional information to confirm our conclusions are like that.
Okay. Anything else you would perform? Or what is the impact of this particular inconsistency? Let's say, for example, over here, the AR aging report that you prepared. Okay. Now, this particular report gave you that, okay, let's hypothetical example I'm talking about as of now, that there was an ex customer, his AR was, let's say, rupees 50 lakhs. Okay. But the confirmation that was there for this particular ex customer was rupees 60 lakhs. Now, there is an inconsistency. What you will do? What you will do for this inconsistency?
So can you repeat your question?
So let's say you obtained confirmation for customer X. Okay, that confirmation came to 60 lakh rupees, the balance of the customer. But whereas the AR aging report that you obtained from the system showed you the balance of 50 lakhs. So AR aging is giving different balance than the confirmation obtained from the customer. So there is an inconsistency in the audit evidence. What you will do?
Sir, first we will verify the sales. That means how much sales we made to Mr. X. Then we will verify whether any advance or any cash amount received from Mr. X, whether that is recorded in the books like that. And we will compare whether the balance means after taking cash receipt, whether the sales minus cash receipt, whether it is matching with the balance in the books or not. And we can finally conclude that whether the confirmation given by the customer is correct or not based on these audit evidence.
Okay. Good.
Sir, recalculate all the AR aging amount of 50 lakh, and other procedure also conduct by him. He also required to confirm by the management, and uh, if any discrepancies happen, then he also report in his audit report and communicate with management. I think it's
Okay. I'll tell you what I'll do. Yes, anyone? Anyone else?
Sir, I would reassess my risk of materiality restatement that have been assessed, and the responses that have been generated. Means I would decide upon what audit procedures we should have to revise, and effect on my audit opinion modification.
Okay. Yes. Yes. I'll tell you in this example what I will do. Let's say I'll continue this example over here. So, ex customer, your AR balance which is rupees 50 lakhs. Again, X customer, AR confirmation, rupees 60 lakhs. Now, this 10 lakh rupees difference. Okay. First of all, I will try to identify the reason for the difference. Reason for the difference. If reason is misstatement, means my accounting records or the AR report. See, it may happen that, the confirmation which we have received is incorrect, but that will hardly happen. No one will, provide a wrong confirmation. There are still chances, but they might not do. So if the reason is a misstatement that my AR balance, which is there in the books, is incorrect, I have to reassess my risk of material misstatement. In this case, reassess risk of material misstatement number 1 with respect to AR. Reassess reliability over controls on AR or related controls, because somewhere I tested this control process specific ITGC, I got comfort, and then only I proceeded. But now you are saying there is a misstatement in the books. Again, I have to think on the controls part, whether controls are operating effectively in actual. If yes, then how this happened? I will check and reassess the reliability over the controls. And if I decide that I am not relying on the control, trust me, that becomes a very big problem. And that impacts a lot of risk assessment, a lot of additional testings, and a lot of reassessment gets into the picture. So if you decide controls are not working, you have to remove the reliability of those controls for all the areas where you took the reliance. And again, the moment you remove the reliance on the controls, test of details will increase. And test of details will again, you need to perform additional procedures. So reassess test of detail requirements accordingly. Then there is one more aspect that we need to understand. Reassess your risk of material misstatement due to fraud. This requires a specific attention. Reason because if, let's say, for example, there was a sales which was not recorded in the books, whether the management was planning or someone was planning to siphon the funds, that okay, 10 lakh rupees I'll not record in the books. So when the customer will pay, I will directly take it into my accounts and I will never show that in books. So by default, 50 lakh sales, 50 lakhs amount in the books. This could be fraud also. So the reassess of risk of material misstatement due to fraud. And then your audit opinion. You need to reassess impact on audit opinion. So whenever there is an inconsistency, first of all, inconsistency or you have a doubt over the reliability of the information, determine the modifications or the additions that you need to the audit procedures, including your risk assessment, including your control testing, including TOD requirement to resolve the matter. And accordingly, you need to evaluate the impact on the audit. So it's not just the one thing that you need to do, but there are multiple things that are required to be performed when there is an inconsistency. Clear? And this really happens in certain cases where we have to go back, we have to reassess the planning, risk of material misstatement, and then the cycle starts again. That's why I say that risk of, assessing the risk of material misstatement is a continuous process. understanding the entity, doing the risk assessment is a continuous process, because once you test, you get some information, you go back, you reassess, then again, it happens continuously. Any doubt? No? Yes? So that is your SA 500, audit evidence. Any doubt with the whole SA 500 audit evidence? Any doubt with the whole essay? No? Okay. Let us see quickly the module, study material, and then we will discuss the next one. So this is chapter number 5, audit evidence. You basically have a essay 500, 510, 550, 505, 510, 530, 550. And here in this, you have been provided with an overview of each and every essay, because I think you have already discussed, you have already studied these essays. So this is audit evidence, okay, in a graph form. Very important, okay. This helps you to revise the essay in a quick manner. For example, scope of essay with respect to obtaining sufficient and appropriate audit evidence that we discussed, okay. Again, objective to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence that we discussed. Now, information to be used in audit evidence. So for that information which is required to be used in audit evidence, you need to evaluate the relevance and the reliability of the information. Remember something, appropriateness, appropriate, whether the audit evidence is appropriate or not, relevance and the reliability. When the information is by management expert, you need to evaluate CCO, that is competency, objectivity, and the capability of that particular management expert. You need to evaluate the appropriateness of the expert's work and whether the the expert's work is appropriate or not. Then you need to, when you are using the information produced by the entity, understand the reliability, completeness, accuracy of the information. Reliability is something when you say, whether that information is reliable based on the other testings. Completeness is about the source data. Accuracy is somewhere about the logic, okay. And again, both you have the parameters. So you need to check all these things in order to understand the information produced by the entity. Then only you can understand that, okay, whether I can rely on that. So audit procedures that you need to perform to obtain audit evidence, which may be risk assessment procedures, test of controls, substantive procedures that we have seen till now. And then inconsistency part. When you have an inconsistency or doubt or reliability on the audit evidence, you need to perform addition to the audit procedures to resolve the matter and consider the effect of the matter on your audit opinion, if there is any. So this is in a summarized way, SA 500 chart, which is given in your study material. Okay, and you have a good question below that. So that is SA 500 from your study material. Okay. Any doubt I'm asking again, because if you have a small and simplest doubt, don't keep it to yourself. The purpose is that I solve your doubt so that you can understand the topic with much more clarity. So do not hesitate in asking doubts. Okay, great. Oh, okay. So if no further doubts, what I propose is let's take a quick 10-minute break. We have done SA 500. Try to grasp what we have discussed till now, and then after the break we'll start with SA 501. I want to discuss SA 501 first, and then I will be jumping into the questions. Okay, let's take a quick 10-minute break. Thank you. Hello everyone, welcome back. Let's continue the session. So, we were discussing SA500, we discussed that in detail. Now, I want to shift to the next topic, that is SA501. The reason because we are shifting to SA501 and not solving the questions is because both of the essays are linked to somewhat a level, and we will be in a very good position if we understand both of the essays together and we solve the questions then together for both of the essays. Now, when I talk about essay 501, okay, that is audit evidence only, but specific considerations for selected item means it discuss specific items only. It discuss about the audit evidence, but for the specific items, and we will see what is that. Essay 501, audit evidence, but that is specific considerations. For selected items. Sorry, apologies. Okay. So, when I talk about specific consideration for selected items, there are 3 items which we will be discussing one by one in detail. So I will just create the section for each of the item. Okay, so the first item that we will be discussing inventory, condition of the inventory. But not only the condition, it is the existence and condition of inventory. Existence and the condition of the inventory. Second is completeness. Of litigations and claims which is involving the entity. And the third part is the presentation and disclosure of segment information in accordance with or as per applicable financial reporting framework. So these are the 3 items that we have to discuss in detail. Okay, and their specific requirements. Means how to obtain audit evidence in these 3 categories or in these 3 scenarios. For each of the scenario, essay provides in detail the list of the procedures that you are required to do. Okay. Essay guides you that what are the procedures that you need to perform to verify the existence and the condition of the inventory, completeness of the litigation and claims, presentation disclosure of the segment. So let's start one by one. First, start with the condition and existence of the inventory. When I talk about condition, can someone tell me what is condition of the inventory? What we are trying to look into when it comes to the condition of the inventory?
As regards to the value that we are showing in our books.
Okay. Okay.
When it comes to finished goods, whether it is in saleable condition or not.
Yes. Good.
The bifurcation of capital and revenue goods and as well as raw material, finished goods, and all transactions are properly recorded with evidence support, no fraudulent entry.
Okay, yes, very good. So, when I talk about condition of the inventory, see, this is a fixed, this is an asset. Okay, the value of this asset derives from its condition. For example, if the inventory is damaged, obsolete, non-moving, slow-moving, then they might not have that much value. Remember, the accounting policy for this inventory is cost or NRV, whichever is less. If the net realizable value is not more than the cost, in that case, the the inventory which we are holding in the books of accounts is not that much value, is not having that much value, and that is something as an auditor we have to understand whether the inventory is valued appropriately. So when I talk about existence, it is the physical presence of the inventory. But when I talk about the condition, you can link condition with the valuation aspects. Whether it is valued correctly, whether it is in a good condition, the way it is shown in the books. Okay, whether the inventory is damaged inventory, which is lying, or it is, proper, it is good. Whether this inventory is slow moving, non-moving. So they might be in proper condition, but they are non-moving inventories, which requires a provision, or they are slow-moving inventories, so again, which requires a provision. So those are the things that we need to understand about the inventory. Okay, if I ask you to test the existence and the condition of the inventory, what you will do?
Physical inspection of inventory.
Yes. What else?
Along with physical inventory count, we will also check whether the financial accounting records which are showing the inventory records, whether they are actually uh, confirming with the actual inventory count that we have been performed.
Okay, good. Yes. How many of you have actual, performed the inventory count? Okay, Vignesh. Good. Yes. Anyone else that has performed the actual inventory count? Pooja, yes. So, what you do in your inventory count, when you go out and perform inventory count, what you basically do? Those who have performed.
So we observe the physical inventory counting procedures that have been performed by the management personnels. What procedures they are actually performing to identify different types of inventory classes, and how they measure that the inventories.
Okay.
They maintain some kinds of registers. We
Yes.
also cross-check that registers.
Okay. Yes. Shrikant, if you like to add something, you as you perform the.
Identifying the obsolete items or
Yes.
labeling or check some sample bases also. And
Yes, sir. Where I went, they are maintaining an ERP system to measure the inventory, means outgoing and incoming inventory, everything. And they're also maintaining physical register with the store personnel also. So when we compared both of them and by doing actual count also, there are discrepancies arised between the three, and we asked the management regarding the clarification for discrepancies, and they explained means that they have implemented the ERP for the first time, and there are some discrepancies while making entries in the ERP, and we noted the regions, and we verified the registers with the actual count, and for the discrepancies between that, they told us that some inventory movement were not recorded in the register, and they are trying to create some controls so that it will not happen in the future, like that something.
Yeah. Correct. So whatever you guys just now told me, the standard somewhat in other way says you the same thing. There is nothing, rocket science or different that we are going to learn, but the same thing in a much more detailed way. Just I'll tell you and explain you what standard says. See, whenever we are testing the existence and condition of the inventory, or whenever you are testing the inventory, you perform two things. Or whenever you are testing any area, your testing is divided in two parts. One is a test of controls, one is a test of details. When about test of controls, what controls can you think that will be around existence and condition of the inventory? If anyone can give some idea, like what controls do you think will be around the existence and condition of the inventory? Controls that can be present around the existence and condition of the inventory.
Sir, different departments will get the different levels of record of the inventory. That the purchase department will record the purchase, how many quantity they require to purchase, and if there is shortage, then that is also recorded by the another department, and the requirement to sales also. When the inventory got sold, that also recorded by the different department, and like this we can take the record of the inventory.
So that is basically you're talking about segregation of duties, that each department has their own function and they perform with respect to the inventory. That is somewhere linked to the accuracy of the accounting records with respect to the inventory. I'm talking about existence and the condition of the inventory. Physical existence, physical related thing.
Sir, we check whether monthly or annually, whether they are verifying the inventory or not on a regular intervals.
Very good. So,
Similar.
physical count performed by the management is a control. Physical inventory counting performed by the management, not by the auditor, but by the management, is a control around the inventory existence and the condition. Now, whenever we are testing a control, we have to see that how the control is designed, how the control is operating. So, first we will understand that we will go and check. Now, for reference, I am writing over here TOC. Okay, but you need to understand that these are the procedures that you have to perform. That first evaluate or attend the inventory, physical inventory count. Okay, attend the physical inventory count. Okay, why? Reason because this is something similar to the observation. The testing method observation that we perform when we are doing the test of controls. Testing the control by observing the performance of the control. Okay, we will observe how the performance of the control is happening. That the how physical inventory count is happening. Over there, I'll write here star mark. Attend the physical inventory count. I'll star mark because there is something, terms and conditions we will discuss with respect to attending the physical inventory count. But attend the physical inventory count too. First of all, what is the prime criteria when it comes to the physical inventory count done by the management? What do you think? What is the most important thing when it comes to the physical inventory count by the management? What things you will check? Today, if I give you a task, okay, go and perform the test of control that whether management is doing appropriate inventory count, what you will check?
Sir, we will check the interval of the count whether management is doing some small interval or at the end of the year.
Okay, good. Yes.
Whether they are stick to the specific period of the inventory check. They will be checking the relevant inventory comes in, goes out, all the calculations that have been performed in the registers, they will also check for the related period interval.
Okay. Yes. What else?
The method of issuing inventory for finished good, it's also check, because it shows the obsolete items also, and record in the books and physical inventory count is matched on any discrepancies.
Okay. So I'll give you one example. Let's say this is a question. Okay. Management of ABC Limited assigned Mr. X, warehouse manager, to perform inventory count, okay, on 28th Feb 2024 for financial year 23-24. Mr. X performed materiality calculations and decided that he needs to verify 30% of inventory physically. Mr. X performed inventory count and identified deviations of rupees 25 lakhs, which he recorded in books of accounts. Now tell me, this is the whole particular scenario that has happened. You as an auditor, what will be your response to this? So management of ABC Limited assigned Mr. X, warehouse manager, to perform inventory count on 20th Feb 2024 for FY 22-23. Mr. X performed materiality calculation and decided that he need to verify 30% of the inventory physically. Mr. X performed the inventory count, found the deviation of 25 lakhs, which he recorded in the books of accounts. I'll give you one more thing. Inventory value as on 28th Feb was rupees, let's say 500 crores, and on 31st March it was rupees 600 crores. Now tell me, what do you think from this particular point? Anyone? So let's assume this is the control. So we were discussing about management inventory count control. This is the performance of the control. As an auditor, what is your observation on this? What is your response on this one? What do you think? Let's say you attended this physical count of 28th February and you also are agreeing with the deviation of 25 lakh rupees. Anyone?
A need to reassess this calculation and external confirmation.
External confirmation.
Sir, when I buy this stock and check whole recalculation at this stock and stock taking out all the process, I have to check.
Okay. Anyone else? Pooja, Shrikant, Vignesh, Ginny, what do you think? What is your take as an auditor on this one? So basically, see, it's not only we need to understand that, okay, this is something, we need to evaluate management control, or we need to evaluate how management performs the account. In practical also, we need to understand these things, because you need to practically apply what is there in the standard. And that is something, till the time you don't understand, you will not get the proper understanding of the standard. You will not be able to learn or remember the standard easily. Trust me. That's why understanding practically is very important. Now, this particular part, trust me, has 10 different issues. 10 different issues. On basis of which I can directly say that this control is failed at the design level. If this is the control, this is failed at the design level. If anyone can identify those issues. I'll give you a hint. I'm talking about design failure. If I test this control today, and this is how it is designed, then I'll fail at the design itself.
Sir, management is asking the warehouse manager himself to verify the inventory count, but he is the one who did all the means he is the one who has managed, and he is only doing the inventory count, means definitely he is interested in that, and he may means
Yeah.
if he has done wrong also he will not identify it because he has done it willingly maybe.
Absolutely correct. So here I'm talking about first issue is, who is performing the count? The person who was handling the inventory. You are asking him that the person who has, if he has done any fraud, you are asking him to perform the count. How you will identify the observation or any exceptions? So here the issue basically lies is, first one is the segregation of duty. There is no SOD. What else? That's the first one. Anything else? Do you think that should be, a failure on a design level? Second thing, I'll tell you. Second thing.
Sir, there could be spoilage also, no? Spoilage, theft.
Yes, that is actually the part
The
of the
difference is
deviations.
75. Yes, sir, the deviation is because of some spoilage is there, some theft is happening. That's why the records and the physical count might be different.
Yes, so there's a deviation of 25 lakh rupees as of now, which was identified. So what is the problem basically? I'll tell you. Second problem. The second problem lies is on the date of the count. which is 28th Feb for FY 23-24. So inventory is a balance, account balance. You need to have a comfort on the balance which is as of 31st March 6 which is 600 crores. But on the 20th Feb, it has balance of 500 crores. By performing the count, I can get a comfort on 500 crores, but not on the 600 crores. Okay. So I have to perform some additional procedures which are missing in this case. This is something, additional procedures. When count is not performed, when the count is not performed on the balance sheet date or on the date of financial statement. So you need to perform additional procedures. How can you get a comfort by performing a count on 28th Feb with a balance of 31st March? You cannot. Some might say, I need to perform count of an additional 100. No, because the 500 which was there on the 20th Feb may be of some different kind of inventory which might have been sold during the particular 1 month, and now the 600 crores inventory which is there could be something new. So it is not only about the 100 CR additional, it is something more than that we need to understand. Next part that is we need to understand is the materiality calculation decided by. Okay, so the materiality calculation decided by and performed by Mr. X. Why Mr. X has to perform the materiality calculation? Who is the, like, why Mr. X is deciding that he has to verify 30%? It should be responsibility of the management that how much inventory should be verified. Basically, management, if it is performed once a year, at least they should target full inventory count. If they are not able to target, then material portion of the inventory count should be targeted. But here there is materiality calculation being performed by Mr. X, warehouse manager. How he can perform the materiality count? That should be performed by the management to understand the materiality which is lying within the inventory. Second, Mr. X, then the next part, if I talk about, is Mr. X performed the inventory count, okay, and identified the deviations of 25 lakhs. First of all, there was an issue with the segregation of duty. Number two, there is no discussion on the count instructions. Count instructions. Now, what is count instructions? Basically, counts instructions like when you are performing, the count, what things you need to do. For example, stop the inward outwards, stop the inventory movement so that you can perform accurate count. For example, if you are performing count on 28th Feb 2024, obtain an inventory listing of the same day. Do not obtain a week prior inventory listing to perform the count. Third, when you are performing the inventory count, okay, the instructions tell you that how to perform count, like sheet to floor, that if there is an inventory in the sheet, check it on the floor. If there is an inventory on the floor, then check it on the sheet. What procedures you need to perform well for with physical inventory count? When it is required to be performed, midnight, 12, morning, early morning, when? What is the time on 20th Feb that you need to perform the count? Who will be present while performing the count? Only Mr. X? How you need to document the outcome of the count? For example, if there is a deviation of 25 lakh rupees, have you identified the goods which were do you have the detailed listing of 25 lakh rupees? Do you have the AG? What is the item missing? And then next part over here is he recorded the deviation in the books of account. Okay, he recorded the deviation in the books of account without further investigating, without taking any approval. So management has directly taken a hit, there could be a chance of fraud because he was the manager of the warehouse. He's even booking the inventory deviations also now. Tomorrow, if I take inventory out for my personal use, I will call it as deviation. So there is a segregation of duty, there is a fraud risk factor, a lot of things are there into the picture. That's why at the design level itself, I'll fail this control. So by this way, we can understand that when you are attending the physical inventory count, which is kind of a control, okay, which is performed by the management, first of all, evaluate the management's instructions. Whether management is providing any instructions to anyone that how to perform the count, who is performing the count, how the count is performed, what are the things that are required to be taken care while the count is being performed. Because if this is how the count is performed, I will not rely. Straight away, I will not rely on this count. There is no use for me. This count is literally a failure on the design part. So you need to understand and evaluate management's instruction to understand the impact on the design of the process, on the design of the controls. That how management is providing the instructions and the procedures for recording and controlling the results of physical inventory count. Second, you need to observe by yourself. Observe by yourself the performance. Let's say tomorrow instructions are there, the design is perfectly fine. But what if the person is not complying with the instructions? He's doing the way he wants. He's just, overlooking the instructions. He's just not following the instructions. So you need to observe whether the instructions are being followed or not. This will something, give you comfort on the operating effectiveness. And this is something will give you comfort on design effectiveness. Then beyond this particular part, TOC, there is something that we need to do as in test of details. So what you can do is you can inspect yourself the inventory to get the comfort, and you need to perform test counts. So inspection of the inventory will give you about the condition. This will give you comfort on the condition part, and this will give you comfort on the existence part. By this way, you will be performing TOC, TOD both, and you will be getting comfort on the existence and the condition of the inventory. Clear with this? After all this, you need to perform procedures over inventory final records. Okay, whether the deviations have been booked or not. So perform procedures over final inventory records to understand whether the deviations have been booked or not, whether they actually reflect inventory count results, whether they actually reflect inventory count results. Sometimes in the inventory count also we see, for example, how count also, see, one is a count that you perform on the quantitative nature. For example, there should be 10 units of this goods, 10 units are there on the floor. That's a quantitative nature. Sometimes we have to perform the count on the qualitative nature. For example, so I was doing an inventory count for a company which was, manufacturing of iron related products. So metal related products. Now there were big iron rods. I was supposed to count the iron rods. So there were something, in metric tons, the weight of the iron rods, it was there. So because of the nature of the iron rod, they were very big. They were weighing in the tons, which were, kept outside in the ground. I went, I checked the inventory, particular iron rods, and I asked the team to help me to weigh the rods through the big machines and everything. They helped me. We weighed the rods. Weight was perfectly fine. Count was done. The quantitative part was correct. But when I saw the qualitative parts, that the iron rods were lying in the open, they were subject to the natural erosion, sunlight, water, and they can, their quality can get impacted. And I saw, we recorded the photos of those iron rods that they were rusted. The quality was not appropriate compared to the iron rods which were lying within the warehouse. So as a result, on the quantitative aspects, I passed the testing, or I passed the sample for the iron rods. But on the qualitative aspects, I mentioned that it requires a provision, because this is kind of a damaged goods lying in the open. Somewhat corrosion is there, and it is subject to the natural forces, rain, water, everything that will damage this particular further. I asked them, why don't you keep inside? They told me there is no space inside. That will be kept outside till the time it is assigned to a particular project. That was the qualitative aspect. So when we are performing the test count, it is not only the quantitative part, but the qualitative part that we need to focus upon. Okay. I'm sharing these examples because you can gather an understanding of how in practicality we see the things we perform the audit procedures. Now, the second thing that we need to understand, if the count was performed on some other date, so what? So this here, we have performed the count on 28th Feb, but I need comfort on 31st March. I need comfort on 31st March. So if the count is performed on some other date, then what? If count is performed on an other date, then date of FS, DOFS is the date of FS for short form as of now, abbreviation, but do not use it in exam. So if it is performed on any other date than the date of financial statement, then I need to perform additional procedures. Perform additional procedures. Okay. Whether the changes in inventory to the date of financial statement from the date of count are properly recorded. So perform additional procedures to check the inventory changes. Can someone give me an example of this? Let's say here, in this case, I have done a count, management has done a count on 28th Feb. Let's say I became the part of the count. I'm satisfied with each and everything. Rest, everything is fine. So 20th Feb, inventory 500 CR. 31st March, inventory 600 CR. This is also count performed. How would I get a comfort on 600? What additionally would you do? From 500 to 600, what additional you would do?
So we will perform reconciliation calculations, and we will calculate on the backdate quantities. We will check whether they conform with the quantities as they were recorded on 20th Feb, whether it matches or not. So whatever changes have been happened during the period, like additional sales, purchase, or
Yeah.
whether new manufacturing has been done. All that I will check that.
Yes, very good. Absolutely correct. So when I perform a count on a date which is different than the date of the financial statement, okay, I need to perform some procedures, and usually that is, we call it as a roll forward or roll back procedures. Okay. Now, what are these procedures? Basically, over here, I understand during this particular period, let's say, I'll bring this one to the below. So let's say 31st March, 600 crores. Okay. Now, between this particular period, there are few things that I need to understand and I need to perform. So let's say, for example, I am comfortable with the 28th Feb 500 crores inventory count that is done. Now, once if I need a comfort on 31st March from 28th Feb, so the first thing that I need to perform is from 28th Feb to 31st March, I will identify changes, in the process, design, and implementation of control. See, I will understand, is there any change in the process from 28th Feb to 31st March? Is there any change in the design and implementation of the controls over the inventory? Or are they same? Number two, I will check the differences which were identified on 28th Feb. How differences have been accounted for. So on 28th Feb, what was the deviation and how they accounted the deviation when they accounted? Let's say, for example, they identified the deviation on 20th Feb, but they never recorded the deviation. So that deviation will appear in the March also because they never recorded that. So there was an inventory of 25 lakhs which they never identified or they never found. The same deviation now will occur in the 31st March inventory count also. So if there was a deviation, whether that has been recorded or not, then perform audit procedures for the change in the inventory. Basically, we call it as a roll forward procedures or roll back procedures. That is, you add up, let's say, for example, on 20th Feb, I'm standing on 20th Feb. What I will do is add purchase less sales. That should give you, in the quantity terms, that should give you the closing balance on 31st March, because you have opening on Feb. You need to add purchase in that. You need to subtract the quantity of goods sold, and you will get the closing on 31st March. By this way, you need to perform the roll forward procedures, and for the sale and the purchase, I will perform additional testing to validate whether these sales and purchase are correct. I will perform additional testing. So if I have a comfort on the sales, if I have a comfort on purchase, I have a comfort on the opening balance as of 20th Feb, because of the count, I will directly have a comfort on the closing, which is 31st March. So this is how I will perform the rollback or roll forward procedures. Rollback means the count was performed after March. So I will add up the sales, remove the purchase from the subsequent balance to get the previous balance. Clear? Any doubt with this? So what I will do is basically I will perform additional procedures to check the changes in the inventory, which includes change in the process, which includes recording of the deviation, which includes rollback and roll forward procedures. Any doubt? Okay. Now, remember there is one particular star mark that I kept purposefully over here. Okay. The reason because now we will talk about the situation where we are not able to attend the inventory count. Auditor is not able to attend inventory count. If you are not able to attend the inventory count, what you will do? Because of XYZ reasons.
So physical count on other date.
Okay.
I will look into the reason why I am not able to attend that inventory count. It can be relating to the conditions at the areas where the inventory is kept, whether it is feasible for me to reach out that location. If it is not feasible, then I would try to count that inventory at some later date. Or if it is not even feasible for me to do this, I will appoint another person to perform those procedures on behalf of me. And I would review that whole process and how the inventory count has been performed by him, and then accordingly I will rely on that person's procedures result.
I'll tell you one practical scenario. So in one of the case, the company was there. So the company was situated somewhere in the northern side of European region, where there was a lot of disruptions going on, and they had a huge inventory lying over there. Because of the war going on, we were not able to visit the country to perform the inventory count. What you will do? So huge inventory lying in that country because of the geopolitical reasons, geographical scenarios, the war which is going, we were not able to visit the country to perform the inventory count.
Well, modify his report, his opinion.
Modify the opinion. Okay. Okay. I'll tell you what we can do. Number one, if auditor is not able to attend the physical inventory count, either perform count at some other date, at alternate date. In our case, that also was not possible. If you are not able to perform at some alternate date, okay, ask, or you can say, appoint expert or another auditor for count, basically referring to 600. Okay, using the work of another auditor. If we are personally not able to go, in that case, what we will do is we will ask someone else to go and perform the count on our behalf using the work of another auditor. If the another auditor is not available, we may appoint an auditor's expert to perform the count SA 620. Both options are available to you. Either you can go for SA 600 or 620. Okay. Let's say possible. That was also not possible for our case. Perform alternate audit procedures. I'll tell you what happened. In our case, the inventory was lying since more than a year. Last year also the count was performed physically by the auditors, They verified the condition and existence of the inventory, and post that, suddenly the war started and they were not able to move a single piece of the inventory. Now the question was whether the inventory's condition and existence is still there or not there. So what we did is, on the now this particular case, like inventory was there in the books last year, which was counted and performed. Current year, what we did is whether it was practicable for the entity to reach that particular inventory. So entities management, some employees were there still in the country. They used the video calling feature to show the inventory. However, that was for the limited entity inventory. The rest of the inventory was written off by the management even. So we asked management to write off the inventory, because even on the video calls we were not able to verify properly the inventory, the condition and existence of the inventory. Management did the write-off. They written off all the inventory which was lying in the in that particular country. They took the hit, and accordingly, even the we issued modified opinion, and some other things were there, and UM paragraph. So we tried to perform alternate audit procedures, but that was also not feasible, because since 1 year there was no movement on the inventory. Okay. If you are not able to even perform audit procedures alternately, then the last option is modified opinion. As per SA 705. So this is something you should do when inventory count, you are not able to attend the inventory count. Now there is one more point that I want to discuss is inventory lying with third party. What will you do if the inventory is lying with the third party?
External confirmations.
Okay. So general scenarios, a lot of times happen, there are warehouses across the globe. So they store and keep inventory on your behalf, rather than you hold on in your warehouse, or you rent a warehouse. Many warehouses provide the facility that they will store your inventory, and on your instructions they will issue the inventory wherever you want. So how will you verify inventory in such a scenario where you are using such third parties who are storing your inventories? One is the confirmation. Another thing,
Sir, perform physical inspection and other procedure of the audit, and as well as third party confirmation also required.
so inspection is fine. What is other procedures?
Sir, I would also look into the integrity and objectivity of that third person who is holding my inventory.
Yes.
Sir,
So
what type of controls are followed by the third party, and the what instruction given by the entity to issue the stocks, and what environment or condition the inventory is held by the warehouses.
okay. So basically, I'll tell you one practical case. What happened is, there was a warehouse in the foreign country which was holding inventory. Now there was a confirmation from that particular warehouse company that the inventory is lying with us, and that is there. Later, after during the audit only, after some point in time, in the news, in the public media, we got to know that there is a fraud going on within that company. That basically it was a warehouse company. So the fraud was, they actually what you can say, siphoned, or they misappropriated the inventories of other clients for their personal purpose, or they sold the inventory to someone else Okay, they took the money, and later on, they were facing some challenges with respect to this particular fraud. Means they were the ones who sold the inventory without the permission of the client. They took the money, and when the client requested to discharge, or to issue the inventory to someone else, they started creating problems like, there is some issue, we are not able to trace, and XYZ things. In that case, it becomes very imperative, for the auditor, whether we can rely upon the confirmation that we have received from the third party. Now, third party gave us the confirmation, but there is a huge fraud in the third party. And on the similar area, which is related to us, or which is related to the confirmation, that's why it is, the requirement that request confirmation, that is there, fine, we will request confirmation. And we will see, when we are talking about external confirmation standard, what are the things, okay, with respect to the external confirmations, when we will see SA 505. But here also the question comes of the inconsistency, that you have some other evidence in your hand, which is external source, public media, which is pointing to something, and you have a doubt over the reliability of the information or the confirmation. In that case, you have another option to perform inspection or other audit procedures. Either you go personally visit and inspect the inventory, or perform other procedures. Simple. If I talk about other procedures, it will be simple. SA 600 or 620, I may hire an expert, or I may hire another auditor to perform the procedures on my behalf. Or if there is a scenario available, if I can obtain a type 2 report in this circumstance, which is, something, service organization providing the service of keeping inventories for all the people. So what is the controls around the service organization on this particular part? How the controls were working? If I have reliance on the controls which are there present at the service organization, something like that. So I can also use that particular that particular aspect over here. So that will depend upon the circumstances which is there. Any doubt with respect to the inventory existence and the condition of inventory?
May I ask in Hindi?
Yes, sure, definitely.
सर, जो वेयर हाउसेस हैं, उनमें उनका ऑडिट रिपोर्ट से भी तो काम चल सकता है। वो लोगों को सर्विस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन होने की वजह से ऐसे ऐसे SSE के अंदर ऑडिट करवानी पड़ती है, जिसमें वो अपनी रिपोर्ट अफेक्ट करते हैं, तो वो रिपोर्ट रिलायबल होती है, तो उस रिपोर्ट के बेस पे भी हम सब कंफर्मेशन से काम चला सकते हैं।
See, agar if you have a type 2 report with you, okay, let's say you have a type 2 report, it's a service organization, you have a type 2 report, which they have already carried the audit and they have issued the type 2 report. After type 2 report, you have the external confirmation on your inventory balance. It is not only the type 2 report that I will be requiring the confirmation on the inventory balance. So in that regard, first I will get a comfort on the type 2 report by seeing who has performed the audit procedures, what audit procedures were performed, who was the auditor, whether I can rely on the type 2 report or not. If I decide to rely on the type 2 report, everything is fine, then I need the confirmation on the balance of my inventory. If I get the confirmation on the balance of my inventory, that should be appropriately fine.
Okay, sir.
Because only type 2 report will not give me comfort on the existence and the condition of the inventory or the balance of the inventory. It will give me comfort on the controls. It may give me some comfort on the on the accuracy part of the inventory, but I would not say it will give me a full comfort of the required audit evidence. Now here comes the sufficient part. Whether your audit evidence is sufficient, like the type 2 report is sufficient to give you the comfort on existence and condition. Answer is no. So we need more audit evidence, that is confirmation beyond type 2.
सर बट जब हम लोग फिजिकल इंस्पेक्शन कर रहे हैं ऑन द रिलेवेंट ऑफ, मतलब अगर हमें उस पे कन्फर्ट है रिपोर्ट पर, टाइप 2 रिपोर्ट पे, दैट इज इनफ फॉर द इन्वेंटरी इंस्पेक्शन, राइट? फिजिकल
So
इंस्पेक्शन प्लस आपका टाइप 2 रिपोर्ट एंड एक्सटर्नल कंफर्मेशन.
it is more than enough. Either you go for a confirmation, either you go for inspection, and then type 2 report. So type 2 report plus confirmation or type 2 report plus inspection. It's fine. Any doubt, guys? Any doubt? No? Okay. Now let's jump to the next topic, which is completeness of the litigations and claim involving the company. Okay.
Sir,
Yes.
is there any case where the if we get the confirmation from the third party and the confirmation is not reliable, it also can be happen, no?
Yes. Yes. You can have a doubt over the reliability of the confirmation. That is perfectly. As I told you the scenario, there was a fraud in the company on the similar part for which we got the confirmation. And as a result, there was a doubt on the reliability of the confirmation. We had to perform other procedures. For example, in that case, you can send some other auditor to perform the inspection,
Yes.
arrange the inspection with the company, and the auditor will go and perform the inspection of your goods, or you may perform other audit procedures, that may be appropriate. For example, if the inspection is not possible, you may ask, management may ask the, what you can say, warehouse that, dispatch all the goods, we will keep in our own warehouse, and then you can perform inspection over there. So something similar.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Now, going to the litigations and claims. So here we are required to get the appropriate and sufficient audit evidence on the completeness aspect. Understand, the target here is the completeness of the litigations and claims. And we need to design and perform audit procedures to identify those litigations and claims so that we can manage the completeness. Now, how will you perform this particular, completeness testing? What you will do to ensure that the litigations and claims are complete?
So we will communicate to the management regarding the if there any litigation pending to the company.
Okay.
So check legal expenses in the financial statement, and also check some external environment in which the entity render their services.
Okay.
मिनट्स ऑफ द मीटिंग से भी हम पता कर सकते हैं.
Yes. Anything else that comes to your mind that might be material? Like, can be also performed.
Legal counsel, whether it is within the entity, we will also communicate with him, or if external counsel is hired by management, we will also have communication with that external person. And again, we will look into his professional capability, competency, objectivity and integrity, all these things we will check again.
Okay. Anything else? Practically, what you will do?
Written representations that management has identified all the types of litigation and probable their effects. They have also estimated, and probably presentation disclosure is also appropriate in financial statements of those litigations.
Yes. See, now in today's time, at some places, because of the advancement of the IT, we have the benefit of, looking at the litigations, all the litigations at one place. For example, in income tax, okay, management can provide you the view of the dashboard where all the litigation might be there. So in case of a company, or in case of a company today, all the litigations with respect to income tax are available on the income tax portal. You can perform some additional procedures to review those portals. For example, income tax portal, GST portal. If you have some similar portals for other legal or regulatory authorities, you can perform that also. Moreover, actions taken by the SEBI, ROC are available on their website. So if there is any adjudication order issued by ROC, if there is any adjudication order issued by SEBI, that is available on their website. You can perform the search, you can get the order. But still, there are other areas also, other regulatory, or other private litigations or claims also, which might not be available in the public domain. For that, what you can do is, you can first inquire with the management. Okay. And others within the entity. For example, your in-house legal counsel. Okay, so legal counsel, if you are performing inquiries with the in-house legal counsel, he may guide you like what are the current litigations and everything. Then review the minutes. Of meetings, not only with the legal counsel but external counsel also, with those charged with governance also, or correspondence. Okay, review the correspondence also. Then you may have a review the legal expense. By this way, you can also identify that someone has hired an external counsel, or some senior advocate for the Supreme Court, or something like that. You will come to know that something is going on. That's why they hired the senior counsel or the senior advocate from Supreme Court to for some cases. So review the legal expense. You may also send the confirmations to external legal counsels. Okay, but for that you need to you need to follow the appropriate procedures which is there. Okay, you need to send a letter of inquiry which is prepared by the management, which is sent by the auditor, requesting external legal counsel to communicate back to the auditor, not to the management. We will see that in external confirmation also, but this is something we need to do with the proper external confirmation procedure. Okay, and this is something you can perform to get the comfort. Plus, most important, management representation letter. Okay, that is something written representation we are required to obtain. Now the question comes is, if management doesn't give you the permission to either review any of the things. Let's say management is not giving you permission to do the inquiries with the in-house legal counsel. Management is not allowing you to review the meetings with the legal counsel. You are facing difficulties in reviewing the legal expense. Invoices are not available. Management is not providing this justifications. They are not allowing you to review the or send the confirmation to the external legal counsels. What you will do?
So we will check why management is refraining us from having communication with these external sources. There may be a confidentiality requirement on management, or where he can be legally obligated to not to share this information. Then we would accept those reasonableness of this management reasons, and I would perform some another applicable procedure if I could perform.
Yes, very good. So basically, there are two things. One, perform other procedures, other audit procedures. Okay. And if you get sufficient audit evidence, fine. If no sufficient audit evidence, then modify the opinion. Okay. Second one is you are not able to perform other procedures. In that case, directly modify the opinion. So if you are unable to perform other procedures, modify the opinion. If you are performing other procedures but still you don't have the sufficient and appropriate audit evidence, modify the opinion. If you are getting the evidence, perfectly fine. According to the testing results, give the opinion. Pretty straightforward, nothing difficult and complex when it comes to the completeness of litigation and claims. It is something similar, we call it as a testing of unrecorded liabilities. Similar to, it is similar to testing of unrecorded liabilities. Okay. Anything else or any other doubt? Any doubt? No? Fine with the litigations? Okay, great. The next part is the segment information. Now, what you will do to test the presentation and disclosure of the segment? This is pretty much easy, the shortest of all.
Segment information का bifurcation से related methods and procedures have been performed given by the applicable financial reporting framework. We will check that whether that methods and procedures have been correctly applied by the management or not. I will check into that procedure. Whatever calculation that have been performed by the management to check the segment reportable है या नहीं ये check करने के लिए I will check into that procedures also.
Yes. Very good. Absolutely correct. So it's pretty straightforward and simple. Number one, you need to obtain two type of understanding. Understanding of method used by management. Method used by management to determine segment information. To determine segment information. Second thing, you are required to obtain understanding of method which is prescribed. Okay, prescribed by or methods that is required by the financial reporting framework, applicable financial reporting framework. So method prescribed by applicable financial reporting framework. That is okay. Now, when you get the understanding of both the methods that is used by the management and that is prescribed by the financial reporting framework, you need to check whether these two methods are equal or are the similar one, whether they are same or not. If the method used by management is different than the prescribed by the financial reporting framework, there is an issue. Okay, so you need to evaluate whether they are the similar method or not, or whether the methods which are likely to result the disclosures in accordance with the financial reporting framework is the one which is used by the management. Yes or no? So accordingly, we need to come to a conclusion, and then you need to test the method. Why test? Reason because once you get the understanding, okay, management has followed the correct method. But what is the outcome by following the correct method, whether they are getting the correct outcome of the method of the segment divisions? So you need to test. You need to test the method, application of the method basically. Test the application of the method. And once you test, you need to perform other procedures as required, or that may be necessary. For example, other procedures or analytical procedures that may be necessary to perform in that particular scenario to test this presentation and disclosure of the segment information. This is you need to do for the segment information. Simple. Any doubt with respect to presentation disclosure of segment information? No issues, Pooja. Thank you. Any doubt? Okay. If no doubts, then this was SA 501. That is audit evidence specific consideration for the selected items, where we discuss existence and condition of the inventory, completeness of the litigations and claims, presentation disclosure of segment information. Okay. These are the three important aspects of SA 501. And we'll go quickly to the study material. We'll do a check from the study material and then we will see. This is SA 501. Again, you have three elements: inventory, where is the condition and existence of the inventory; litigations and claims, you need to perform completeness of the litigations of the claim, okay, and the presentation disclosure of the segment, that is the segment information. So in inventory, attend physical count, perform auditing procedures, counting at date other than the date of financial statement, then additional procedures, remember that we discussed. If auditor unable to attend the physical count, make or observe some physical count at alternate date, perform audit procedures on intervening transactions. Attendance is impracticable, then perform other procedures. Impossible to do so, then modify the opinion. Inventory in custody of third party, request confirmation, that we discussed. That was the inventory. Litigations, inquiry, review of minutes, review of legal expense, then direct communication with the legal counsel. Unable to communicate, then modify the opinion, written representations. That is we discussed in the litigations and claims. Segment information, understand the method used by management. Then determine whether this is as per the accordance with the applicable financial reporting framework or not, and then perform additional procedures and analytical procedures. Simple. That is given as a summary for SA 501 in your study material. Okay. Any doubt with respect to SA 500, 501?
Sir,
Yes.
sir, जो segment information में performing an analytical procedure, what procedure we need to follow, where we need to perform?
See, analytical procedures is kind of, let's say, for example, in segment reporting, you report, numbers of various segments. Let's say, for example, I know I can do a reasonable check. Let's say I know that, this sales of this particular segment is, let's say, 40% of the total sales. So the total sales, so the 40% comes from this particular segment of the total sales. I can do an analytical procedure and I can check on the reasonable basis whether the 40% is allocated to this particular segment or not, or whether it is on the similar lines or not. For example, last year it was 30%. Current year, based on the increase in sale and based on the increase in, like you can say, contribution by the segment, we have 40%. So something like that, performing analytical procedures to verify the numbers which are given under the segment disclosures.
You mean only information or numbers are verified, nothing related to FRF, right?
No, I'm talking about analytical procedures, because analytical procedures, something will be more onto the, the amount or the analytics that you will perform on the numbers. But when you understand the disclosure, presentation disclosure, you may perform additional procedures. For example, if you go back, what we discussed here is that other procedures or analytical procedures, other procedures will include, let's say for example, 10 items were supposed to be reported under the segment disclosure as per the applicable financial reporting framework. Whether you have disclosed that 10 items or not, you will perform the procedures to identify that.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Any other doubt, guys? Any doubt? No? If no further doubts, what I propose here is, in the next lecture, we will be continuing the chapter number 5. First, we will be taking up the questions on SA 58501. Then we'll continue the session. And I would request everyone, please, to read the rest of the chapter so that you can be ready with your doubts. Also do a revision of what we have discussed till today so that you can understand, okay, these two essays and the topic that we discussed. And if you have doubt with respect to this also, bring in the next lecture, we will discuss. Okay. One more request to you guys is, please provide your feedback with respect to the sessions that are happening, because your feedback is really, really important for me to understand whether you are liking the sessions or not, whether you need something else, whether you need a change in the sessions, you don't like something, you want to change, or you want something additional. That kind of feedback is really important for me, and to understand that, what other things can be done in the sessions for you guys. Okay. So if no further doubts, yes, anyone was saying something? Anyone was saying, like, okay. So no doubts. Thank you, Ginny. Okay. So if no further doubts, thank you guys. Thank you for participating in today's session. I will see you in the next session.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yes.